talk about a well underrated topic. Built to fail because you're built to win, because God don't make dirt, because you can't fall from the floor, because success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, because rainbows only follow storms. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. It's actually a scientific fact. Even the Bible suggests you cannot grow without legitimate suffering. And so we've misunderstood this thing called failure. We think it's about us and just it's simply the outcome to an experiment. I've been built by failure. This is a topic that I want to get into as a series on my Money and Wealth podcast. I'm going to talk to people who've gone through the fires to get to the promised land. I'm going to talk to people who've gone through something to become somebody. But you're also listening to somebody and looking at somebody who teaches because he's been there, who instructs because he's seen the path, walked the path, experienced the path. It is his past. That person is me. People will look at me and make a number of assumptions and presumptions, which are mostly wrong most of the time. They see my confidence. They see me walk in a room. I walked into uh, a convenience eating restaurant earlier tonight, and the gentleman behind the counter, he saw me looking at the folks in line and assessing how long it was going to take. And I just didn't say anything. I just was prepared to walk out. And he said, "No, no, no, come here. I can help you myself. Um, I see you're a man on purpose. I don't know who you are. You look slightly familiar to me, but you walked in with a presence, and I want to know who you are. So I'm gonna serve you myself. I'm gonna make the food myself. So I have a moment to talk to you." Smart young man. He's going to be very successful in his life because he's nosy. He's curious. God gave you two ears and one mouth, so you listen twice as much as you talk. And he's humble and he's fascinated with success. And I'm fascinated with success. But what he saw walking that restaurant was not somebody who was built by seamless, uninterrupted successes. He found somebody built by failure who has been toe up from the floor up, who has been over it, around it, through it, and to it. And so he knows how to get through it. Somebody who takes no's for vitamins. I take no's for vitamins. I mean, what are you gonna do to me? I was homeless for 6 months of my life when I was 18 years old. Um, I failed 100 times before that point, before I was 18, and different business ideas that just did not work. I saw murder when I was 6 or 7. I saw my mom and dad divorce. Johnny Will Smith, Juanita Smith, two amazing human beings now, helpers in heaven with our Lord. They've been promoted. But when they were on this world, in this earth, they did the best they could to raise me, Donnie, Dave Harris, and my sister Monty, Mara Hoskins. And they did an incredible job, but they did not see themselves as better together. They did not see themselves as a team. And even though they were brilliant and hardworking, it wasn't enough. Anyway, they divorced. Number one cause of divorce, as you heard me say time and again, is money. So I saw that death of my family net worth and family structure. I've seen the murder of the guy who saved my life. OC was his nickname. Um, I've seen all this is in my book, Financial Literacy for All, which if you don't have, you need to get. Um, number one bestseller in economics and finance and business, by the way, continues to this day. And is number one. It goes from number one to number two. The last time I checked, it was number one. Pick it up; it will change your life. Um, I I've seen failures. I've seen successes. My best friend George was murdered when I was 9 years old, and he was 18. And so this is not a guy with a silver spoon in his mouth. This is not a guy who had a trust fund. This is not a guy who nothing wrong with all that. That's fantastic. I salute anybody who's got those assets going into life. That's fantastic. That's not my story. This is not a guy who had um, vaulted, uh, Ivy League college degrees. Yes, I've got a chair from Harvard in my office. That's because I went to a Harvard executive leadership training program for leaders after I had already succeeded on some level. And I've got a couple honorary doctorate degrees, I think three, two or three. I know at least two. Um, but I had the equivalent of a high school education and graduated with a GED, which Chris Rock calls a good enough diploma, and went to community college after that. But I was always just ready to go. I was ready to get out in business and do things and succeed. Well, to apply myself in life. And everybody who works for me, by the way, today has a college degree, an advanced degree. I don't hire dummies. Everybody who's smarter than me in their expertise area, people know more and more about less and less is what an expert is. And I like those experts to be uh, best in class in their areas. But no one outworks me. No one outthinks me. No one out energizes me. No one out. I'm the chief inspiration officer, chief visionary officer, chief execution officer, chief get it done officer. People may be a PhD, but I'm a PhD. And I'll get up earlier, work harder, and stay later. While you're in late, long lunch, leave early. People make the mistake of thinking that being smart enough is enough. It's not. Good habits are more important than being smart, actually. You can't be a dummy. Let me make that clear. You need, and everybody who can get a college education should get one. But let me be clear, you must have good habits in order to be successful. I'm going to do an entire podcast on having good habits. But at the moment today, I want to absolutely remove this stigma about failure. Failure does not mean that you are a failure. It means you failed at something. It means that there was an outcome to an experiment that was not successful. It doesn't define who you are. It just says this is what I went through. It's on the path to where you're going. Again, rainbows only follow storms. Success, as I said earlier, is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. Over it, around it, through it, you're going to have to get to it. Success, as I keep saying, is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. It doesn't define you. Life is 10% what life does to you, and 90% how you choose to respond to it. What's your response going to be? You don't react to it, you respond. You come right at it. You come right at it, not over it, around it. Don't avoid it. You're coming right to face it, because what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It builds resiliency. Why am I telling you this? Why is this important podcast on money and wealth? Because every form of poverty, two reasons, by the way, every form of poverty, three reasons, beyond sustenance poverty, which is a roof over your head, food on the table, and reasonable health care. Sustenance poverty, which is to sustain yourself. So everybody should have sustenance. Everybody should have a roof over your head, reasonable health care, food on the table. That should not be something that we beg for in society. It's something that society provides. It's biblical, by the way. But beyond that, every form of poverty is mindset. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're absolutely right. And so my concern is this generation that we have today who's grown up seeing a black president, who's grown up seeing and experiencing a run up on the stock market, seeing real estate prices that have been on the rise. They might have missed, probably did miss the 2008 real estate crisis, and even if they did, it's in the rearview mirror. who's who saw a social justice reckoning on Black America. If you're Black and brown, um, if you're African American, or African, or people of African descent, you've seen this. You saw a positive reaction to uh, the devastating murder of George Floyd, and you saw uh, somewhere between 60 billion and 300 billion, depending on how you calculate it, invested in you. And while there's pushback on that now, the impression by somebody who's 20 or even 30 years old might be that success for me is preordained. I just got to go to go to college, go to school. Maybe maybe don't need school. They may think yes, you do. I need to dress well. Have a nice Instagram handle, have some great social media, get some business cards made. Lease a car, go to some meetings. Say the right things, and I'm going to be successful. I deserve. I'm entitled to success. No, you aren't, and you won't be, because you aren't prepared to fail. You have no experience with failure, and the things that rattle and shake people today absolutely astound me. I tell people all the time that what you're going through is, with all due respect, high class problems. If you live in the United States of America or a developed country, you're living in you're listening to this from the UK, United Kingdom, you're listening to this from some developed country somewhere in the world. Frankly, if you're listening to this or watching this, you've got some kind of a digital device that's cutting edge. Then you consider yourself lucky. Certainly, if you're in the United States of America and you have a job, you got a source of income, you have you have shelter, you have food, you have opportunity when you get up in the morning. You've been blessed. You have at least one parent, and so there are people in this world. There's a lady right now trying to get from her hut in on the east coast or west coast of Africa, trying to get from her hut uh, to the well to get some water without being abused. That's her daily challenge. There's a woman in Afghanistan right now that's trying to keep her basic dignity, and goes on. And in the wars, in a third of the war, it seems, third of the world, it appears, is at war with itself. And so I'm not discounting your problems, but I'm saying, if you're concerned about your credit card bill, or the mortgage payment, or whatever, that's important, yes. And yes, you got too much month into your money, but consider yourself blessed to have these problems. So I wanted to first tell you, I've been to where you are. That's why I founded Operation Hope, because I've had that experience at 9 years old in the classroom, when that banker came in my classroom and taught me financial literacy, and everybody else was throwing paper planes and playing around and joking. But again, by that time I had these experiences where I saw a murder of my guy who saved my life. Experienced, not I didn't see it firsthand, but of course experienced my best friend being murdered with my next door neighbor over drugs, and I saw my mom and dad divorced, and family tore apart. My mother hustled to go buy our first house in Compton, California, as a single mother, and I had taken life seriously by the time I was 9 years old, and this banker came in my classroom and taught financial literacy, home economics class, which doesn't exist anymore. And I asked that banker, "What do you do for a living, and how'd you get rich legally?" And I was dead serious. And where'd you get that suit from, man? The only white man I saw wear a suit in this neighborhood is a detective, and it's not a good suit. It's a bad suit. I don't mean a bad suit. I mean a bad suit. I mean polyester. I mean not a good suit. Wide tie. This guy had this suit on. That was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was Italian stitching. I could see it today. It was dark blue. He had a white shirt and a red tie, crisp. He had polished shoes. He had a business card. Nobody in my family had a business card. It said the 16th floor. There was nothing beyond I believe the 6 floors of, I think it was 6 floors, might have been eight floors or something, but it wasn't a skyscraper in Compton. That was a courthouse. Everything else was just a couple stories or single story in Compton. He was in the 16th floor. Man, where you work? How do you hear in the middle of the day? My mom was an hourly worker at McDonnell Douglas Aircraft. It became Boeing Aircraft when they bought them. My mother would only come she had two 15-minute breaks and lunch. Other than that, she was an hourly worker. She only showed up to school if I got in trouble, and that wasn't a good thing when I saw her show up at school. So how are you showing up anytime you want during the day? I'm on a salary. What's a salary? It's like I was meeting a Martian, man. And again, he told me I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs. I said, sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if you're financing it and it's legal, I'm going to be one. Rainbows after storms, I became one. Seeing everybody in my neighborhood, which I just toured recently in Compton, California, prison, probation, parole, and death, because they did not take that banker seriously. They did not have good role models that like I had, even though I was in a troubled situation at home. My dad gave me a sense of yes, I can. My mother gave me a sense of yes, I am. Self-esteem and self-confidence and belief in myself. They didn't have those benefits. They were just as smart as me, and I wasn't going to waste my the luck of my childhood experience. And I was going to try to bring as many people along with me as I could, which is why when I asked that banker, were there any more bankers like you? And he said, yeah, there's tens of thousands of bankers in America. And I said, wait a minute. And your job is to loan poor people money? Let me make sure I understand this properly. We're trying to get a loan from Boo Boo and then Pookie and them and the mafia and the gangs. We're trying to get, I mean, I got a loan from a dude and I tried to pay him back. And he was like, no, this is not a loan you pay back, man. And he looked at me, he's like, you really are naive, aren't you? He's like, "Look, I'm gonna do you a favor. Go, get, like, give me my money and then get out of here and never come back." And I never let that lesson pass me by. He let me go. He could have killed me. He was saying that you are mine, man. When I make you a loan, you are mine. I own you. The interest and the penalties on this situation are such that you don't pay this loan back. You could pay the principal back. You'll never pay the interest back. We're in a relationship. And he let me go. He saw that I had real potential. He saw I was not supposed to be there. And I've been visited by grace several times, but grace is enhanced by hustle and good intentions and the right mindset and the right glow in your eyes. And luck is enhanced by your hard work. God helps those that help themselves. Again, Proverbs says to be poor is not to not have anything. To be poor is not to not do anything. And lazy hands make a man poor. And so I took that lesson that this guy was like there's bankers all across America, tens of thousands of bankers and 10,000 banks at that time, and the job was to lend poor people money. So wait a minute, all I got to do is prove to you that I can pay it back, and that yes. So what am I doing today? What are we doing at scale in 1,500 locations across the country with Operation Hope? Just one of my entities. I've got 5 divisions of my holding company with 400 employees now, and the largest enterprise in the country around inclusive economics. I'm the biggest. I'm the leading entrepreneur around inclusive economics, at least in the United States of America. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of economic activity, $4 billion plus in investments in underserved neighborhoods. Raising credit scores, lowering debt, increasing savings, getting the bank out of the no business, no, you're declined for a loan, getting them back in the yes business, the only non-profit allowed to operate inside of a bank branch in U.S. history. That's right, ever. Uh, the biggest banks in the world have us in their branches. This little kid from Compton in South Central LA, and I'm in major corporations, major banks, in the government, advise the President of the United States of America because of my mindset, because I got my mind right, because I never gave up, never gave in, over around the through it. I mean, and I'm telling you that people, they absolutely discounted me. They absolutely disrespected me. I can't tell you how many times. Again, it's in the book Up From Nothing. You can read that. It was not about my successes, it's about my failures. All the people who looked at me and rolled their eyes. They aren't rolling in their eyes anymore. But if I had believed what they said to me at that point, I would have given up. I would have thrown my hands up. But let me tell you something. Love is the only self-renewing asset in the world. If you love yourself and you know you're God's child, you're just never going to give up because you know that failure is a Lucifer is a punk. That failure is a failure is lazy, just like Lucifer. The devil's lazy and failure's lazy. It's waiting for you to trip up on some easy stuff. It's waiting to trip you up on some easy stuff, and you just got to stay disciplined and focused. Again, good habits, and never, ever, 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 ever give up. And so, this generation, I want you to understand that problems are what you experience when you get up in the morning. A challenge is something you get around to go through. It's not something that's supposed to stop you. I don't want you to think that somebody's picking on you because life didn't work out for you today. No one promised you a rose garden. Nobody promised you life would be good. Life was going to be free of grief or pain. Life is tough, and so are you. And what challenges are meant to do is to build your resiliency, build your self-esteem, build your confidence, build your belief, build your you, so that nobody can deny you. No one can step on you. No one can tell you what you cannot do. What did Dr. King say? Dr. King said when he was in Memphis, Tennessee, right before he was assassinated with the sanitation workers there, they had these signs that I am a man in front of them. It was so beautiful. And he said, no one can ride your back unless you're bent over. Stand straight up. And by the way, Dr. King got a C minus in public speaking from Crozier Seminary. I'm not kidding. Crozier Seminary gave that man a C minus in public speaking. One of the professors said, if you don't stop talking like that, you'll never amount to anything. Thank God he had a sense of focus and passion and distinction and belief in himself. I got a C minus C plus in math, and supposedly I'm the financial literacy success story for in whatever leader in the country. Help to create federal policy for financial literacy in our federal government. Inspired that under President Bush and President Obama. Worked with President Clinton along these lines. Before that, I've worked with successive administrations. Um, um, and have known 9 presidents, one I don't claim, and recognized by 5. And I do my own thing. I get up in the morning, I do whatever I want, when I want, how I want, whenever, with whomever I want or not. Powers, when you got the power, you don't need to use it. I don't scream, I don't holler. Why? I didn't have to walk in that convenience restaurant and announce who I was. He looked at me and knew I was somebody. And so will somebody look at you and know the same when you are built to succeed. But you're going to be built by failure, and that's okay. So here's some stories. You've heard me go on. You may say, okay, well, this, John, you're an outlier. You're unique. Who can do Operation Hope, then turn around and do the Promise Homes Company and sell that company for over $100 million 5 years later, and who can do this and who can do that and have 250 million views in part-time online on who can do it? You can do it. That's who can do it. I'm no different than you. I am you. I just believe. Do you believe? Here is what Denzel Washington had to say about the power of failure as he delivered a commencement address in 2011 at the University of Pennsylvania. He said to fall forward. He emphasized the idea that failing is inevitable, but instead of falling backwards or being paralyzed by fear, you should fall forward. He explained that when you fall forward, you're at least making progress and learning from your mistakes, moving forward in your goals, even if it's difficult. He said, number 2, that you should embrace failure. He talks about how failure is part of life and and that it should not be feared. He recalls his own personal experience, including auditioning for roles for being rejected early in his career. These failures didn't stop him; they made him stronger and more determined. And let me tell you something about the ultimate fear, which is death. You don't know how long you're gonna live, but you damn sure know you're gonna die. What's the mystery? So make peace with it. Dr. King once said, "It's not about how long you live; it's about how well you live, how good you live your life. Don't be afraid of anything." We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. Energy matters. And if you have the right energy, you live forever because people don't, you die, even when you die twice. You die physically and you die the last time someone mentions your name. And that's not about what you give, it's about what you get. And it's about your energy and it's about your vibe. It's about how you flow. I'm always surprised when people say, John, you're such an inspiration. I don't get that. I'm just doing me. I'm just being me, right? But I've created an energy about myself that is my signature, and this is what Denzel Washington is saying here. Number 3, he said, if you don't fail, you're not even trying. Washington encouraged people to take risk and try things that might lead to failure because if you're always playing it safe, you're not pushing your limits. And this is going to be a common theme you're going to hear during today's podcast. By the way, spread this on. Tell your friends to subscribe to Money and Wealth with John Hope Bryant on Black Effect Network and iHeartRadio. Tell them to go to Operation Hope and sign up to coaching and counseling, 1,500 offices across the country, scholarship through $100 million, $75 million annual budget I've raised, me and my team at Operation Hope, so that it doesn't cost you anything to get you ready and prepared for life. Get that book, Financial Literacy for All, as your instruction manual and mark it up, write it up, write in it, underline it. But you're gonna hear this theme over and over again. If you don't even fail, you're not even trying. If you don't fail, you're not even trying. He states that Denzel Washington, he states that failure means you're at least trying to achieve something bigger and audacious. Without trying, there's no success at all. Number four, he said, dream big, but remember that dreams without goals are just dreams. He urged graduates to dream big, but also to set goals, to move toward those goals, and accept failure as a necessary part of reaching those goals. Again, it's not a determination of who you are. It's just simply saying you're on a journey and you tripped and fell. It's not about tripping and falling. It's getting back up and brushing yourself off. Again, I take no for vitamins. Again, what are you gonna do to me after I tell you I've been homeless? Tell me no. I had no when I walked in your office. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't phase me. I'm not focusing on if I try 100 times and I get 98 no's. I'm not thinking about the 98 no's. I'm focusing on the two yeses. Can I get an amen? Number five, he says, perseverance over fear. Washington challenges the audience to keep moving forward despite the fear of failure. He highlights how fear of failure can often prevent people from taking meaningful steps toward their ambitions. We're all just angels with dirty faces. A saint is a sinner that got up. I mean, Dr. King was called Martin Luther King, Martin Luther Coon, Uncle Tom, sellout, and wannabe by his so-called friends when he won the Nobel Peace Prize because they were player hating him and they were jealous. And he died chain smoking, overweight, and depressed. Yes, he did because he thought he had failed. And I hope in heaven he can see through his consciousness and his unconscious spirit that he is enlightened and lit up the entire world. Mandela got out of prison. I mean, went to prison at 47, stayed there 27 years. Went to prison at 47, an angry black man, stayed there 27 years, found his peace, created effectively Mandela University, which is what the prison wards called it, in his honor. And when he came out, he wasn't happy. He divorced his wife and married the love of his life. And everything that we know that he succeeded, he did it in his 70s and 80s. What can you do with a life that may end at 70 or 80? Perseverance over fear. Again, number five. Washington challenged the audience to keep moving forward despite the fear of failure. And he had a famous quote: "You will fail at some point in your life. Accept it. You will lose. You will embarrass yourself. You will suck at something, maybe many things." I sucked at basketball, football. I was a tackling dummy. I broke my nose running into a guy at Wade Junior High School and playing basketball. Or either I ran into him or he did it intentionally. But I remember I just saw nothing but chess. I was pretty good at track, but I just was organized sports like that wasn't my thing, wasn't my jam. I wasn't gonna get a sports scholarship, so I had to be smart. And what sport did I ultimately I found when I was 50 years old. I found motorsports. I have a full competitive auto racing license today, and I'm pretty dang on good as a race car driver. You can find some of my videos online. I'm not the fastest guy even on the track, but I'm very consistent, very smooth most of the times. And as folks are overdoing it, I'm just doing it, and I do pretty good typically. And if I make a mistake, it's typically because I'm just too much in my zone. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But again, I made a mistake. I wasn't a mistake, and I didn't let anybody tell me anything differently. But motorsports, you don't see a lot of people of color out there on racetrack. But once you put on the helmet, it's just the only race is racing, right? But I love going and doing things other people haven't done or gone and done. Motorsports and sports, real estate and finance and technology, financial literacy, et cetera, in business, where these were just not things that people of color were going after, banking, et cetera. And I decided to master, not because I focused on that or I didn't pick them because nobody else was doing it. I picked them because they were opportunities, and I didn't, and I ignored the fact that supposedly there were barriers. I just walked through life consciously oblivious of most things around me because it just doesn't matter. Most people but people have opinions and their failures. They're telling you have a relationship, they don't have one. They tell you that you can't get rich, you can't be successful, and they broke. They so poor they can't afford the OR. They so broke they can't pay attention, and they tell you what you cannot do. Let me listen to me now. If you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. Watch who you hang around. Watch your habits. Eagles don't fly in packs. Can you tell I love this podcast, this episode? Conclusion from Denzel Washington's commencement. Washington's message is that failure is not the end, but part of the process of achieving greatness. His own life serves as a testimony to this mindset as he dealt with setbacks and rejections before becoming one of the most respected and well regarded actors in Hollywood. His advice, fall forward, encourages people, which is the same advice I give you, by the way, to view failure as an opportunity for growth, not as a reason to stop trying. And let me tell you some people who you admire and about their stories. Hank Aaron is often, I know his wife, I knew Hank Aaron, God rest his soul, and I know his wife Billy Aaron. We hang out together, spend time together. We vacation together. Ambassador Andrew Young, who also has experienced failure, by the way, he was fired as UN ambassador. Did you know that? He was the first Black UN ambassador in the history of America. He was fired as UN ambassador, United Nations UN ambassador. Other failures along the way, perceived failures along the way as well. But but success has a thousand mothers, and failures a bastard child. Nobody remembers his failures. They're like, I was just with him, yesterday. People are like, oh my God, you're an icon, you're my hero. All they want to know is, can I take a picture with you? In fact, it's not only in spite of his failures, it's because of his resiliency through the rain. He was on that balcony when Dr. King was assassinated, right? I mean, you don't think he carries guilt and responsibility on his shoulders, seeing his friend assassinated right next to him and he's still alive? And the FBI suggested that the instructions for the shooter were, if you miss the dreamer, kill the strategist. Who do you think the strategist was? Andrew Young. And yet he's gone on to do incredible things and became mayor, amongst other things, of Atlanta and built the only international city in the South. Economy is almost $500 billion and the 10th largest economy in the U.S. at a place that is a symbol for everybody working together, black and white, red, brown, and yellow. You want to have some more green, as in economics. Back to Hank Aaron. So Hank Aaron had the record for the most home runs. You know that. Him and Barry Bonds have the most, I believe. But did you know that at 755 home runs, he also had 1,383 strikeouts? And my friend Reggie Jackson also has a record for an incredible record in baseball and is known as Mr. October. But he had 2,597 strikeouts. Barry Bonds had 762 home runs and 1,539 strikeouts, roughly a ratio of 1.2. Um, uh, and um, you had Sammy Sosa with 609 home runs with 2,306 strikeouts. Um, Mark McGuire, 583 home runs, 1,596 strikeouts. Are you seeing something here? You cannot be a player. You cannot be a top end performer unless you swing at that ball, unless you risk something, unless you lean in, unless you are willing to risk it all. And you're going to fail. You're going to fall down. But nobody remembers all these strikeouts. The hitters who take big swings to generate power tend to strike out more frequently. However, this wasn't the case for their wins. In other words, their wins are not discounted because they swung more often. In fact, it's enhanced because they never gave up. They were resilient. That's really their incredible trait, was that they're resilient. They just never, ever, 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 ever gave up. Let me tell you about some folks that you really admire in sports. I think you admire, but you may not know the backstory. Michael Jordan, arguably the best player in basketball, at least in modern history. Did you know he was cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a sophomore because the coach believed he wasn't tall enough or skilled enough? We know the outcome to that story. In fact, Operation Hope is about to partner with the family that did see his talent, the Reinsdorf family in Chicago. I just met with the family that owns the Buffalo Bills. We're about to do some financial literacy work anyway. Just thinking about that because of Michael Jordan. Tom Brady, um, drafted in the 6th round. Did you hear that? In the 6th round, 199th pick overall. Listen to me now. You guys want to romanticize success, and you get a paper cut, or Your credit card gets turned down. My credit card used to always get turned down, or you don't get a credit line, or you don't get a client, or you blow a presentation, or somebody doesn't like you, or somebody said something bad on comments on your Instagram post that devastates your self-esteem. Well, then you didn't have a self-esteem to begin with. It's okay if you don't like me. I like me. As Quincy Jones once said, not 1 ounce of my self-esteem depends on your acceptance of me. When people say things about me on social media that I don't appreciate, I take it as an opportunity to create a new post. They say something that it's in most cases ignorant and it's uninformed. Then I will then gently correct them with giving them more respect than they gave me, and I'll correct the record. I'll use that opportunity to correct the record, and I'll set a whole new stream of conversation. It has been often the case that the comment that I made to the disrespectful comment made about a post that I put up, that becomes a whole nother discussion thread with literally hundreds of comments, views, and likes or whatever. Another opportunity to learn. But that person doesn't know me. That person's not saying anything about me. That person is not. I don't really care what that person's opinion is about me. I'm the one giving free content out. I'm the one giving free game, as Jay-Z would say. I'm giving you in his album 444. I'm giving you $1 million worth of game for 9.99. I'm giving it to you for no 99. You're not paying me a thing. So how you dare you come on my thread and tell me off? No, just go away. Bye, Felicia. I mean, it's not even. I'm passionate about it. I'm not upset about it. It's humorous to me. You're hitting your face with my fists. You're hitting your face against my fist. What are you doing to hurt me? Not a thing. Because the comments I'm talking about, they're ignorant, they're wrong, which means the person's broke because they're saying stuff that doesn't make any sense about a topic that I actually know about. There's a lot of things I don't know about, but this topic I absolutely do because I've lived my truth. Tom Brady again drafted in the sixth round, 199th pick overall of the 2000 NFL draft, considered by many to lack the athleticism and arm strength to succeed at the professional level. Tom Brady today regarded as one of the greatest, or if not the greatest quarterback in NFL history, with 7 Super Bowl championships and numerous records? Enough said. Soccer player Lionel Messi, diagnosed with growth hormone deficiency as a child. Many believed he wouldn't grow big or strong enough to play professional soccer. Became one of the greatest soccer players in history. Serena Williams grew up in Compton, California, where I grew up, and plays tennis. Early in her career, Williams faced criticism for her unconventional playing style and was often overshadowed by her sister Venus. Serena became one of the most dominant players in tennis history, with 23 Grand Slam single titles and recognition as one of the greatest athletes of all times, with a great relationship with her sister, I might add. When you got the power, you don't need to use it. You have high self esteem. I did a Forbes Black interview, and I said, probably the greatest problem in facing Black America is low self esteem. Like I said, somebody's watching this piece right now, going, "Who does he think he is? What is he? Why is he talking?" I'm talking because I've done something. And why are you doing anything other than commending it? Like, why wouldn't you just sit there and go, bravo, there's a brother who's done something. You may not like what the way I do, how my style, how I flow. You may not do it the way I do it. By the way, I rather you respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me anyway. Why wouldn't you just commend it? Oh my God, that's fantastic. He's successful. He has succeeded. Maybe there's some lesson in there for me. Like, I'm not crazy about Elon Musk. I just saw him a few weeks ago. Saw him. He was at the same meeting I was at. Not that I have a relationship with him. I've seen him several times up close, but I don't really have a great interest in getting to know him because I just don't like his personal views. I don't like how he flows in his humanity. But I think he's a genius. I think that you cannot discount what he did in space, what he's doing in space. I subscribe to his Starlink service. I have his portable satellites in all of my offices and mobile vans and whatever. Um, um, Tesla is a great car, by the way. I'll give him his genius. I just don't personally care for him. Um, but I'm gonna I'm gonna acknowledge your gifts, right? I mean, this doesn't take anything away from me to acknowledge that you got it going on, right? And that's it. And if somebody's dogging you, well, hurt people. That's what I'm saying. So let me move on to the positive here, so you can get these lessons. Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq struggled with free throws and was often criticized early in his career for an unpolished game. O'Neal went on to become one of the most dominant players in the NBA history, winning 4 championships and earning MVP honors. And he's a fabulous businessman. Jackie Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Steve Young. These are other examples. Young struggled in the USFL and then as a backup to Joe Montana with the San Francisco 49ers. Initially regarded as not good enough to lead an NFL team. Uh, Young eventually took over for Montana, leading the 49ers to Super Bowl win and earning 2 NFL MVP awards. Um, and and then you got business, right? We don't have time to go through all of these examples, right? But I just want you to understand that you're not alone, right? You're not. There's nothing wrong with you. Um, you just don't love yourself enough. You don't believe in yourself enough, and you take other people too seriously. Take life seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously, and sure enough, don't take somebody else seriously. All they have is an opinion. It's just their opinion. It's 8 billion people in the world. Go talk to somebody else. I'm telling you, I can tell you the one thing I regret in my life is I took people who didn't matter. Everybody matters in God's eyes, but in business and life and what, like, I took somebody's opinion of me too seriously, which meant I didn't have a high enough opinion of myself. Look, I'm trying. I don't want you to leave this and be arrogant and obnoxious because that surely is a sign of insecurity. It's You're not as bad as your You're not as bad as your criticisms. You're not as good as your compliments. You are who you are. Why be moved one way or the other? If Ambassador Young or Bishop T.D. Jakes or Reverend Cecil Murray, God rest his soul, or my mother, my father, or my wife, Shacher, or somebody who I really respect and admire, has something critical to say about me, I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I'm not saying a word. 'Cause I know they have my best interest, and they're smart and they're wise and they know things I don't. But if some fool's coming up to me who clearly is hating on me because he's jealous or envious or unsuccessful in his own life or just angry and upset, well, I mean, all I have to say is, when you finish with all that, are you done? You can either hear what I have to say or I can leave or you can leave. But I mean, and consider the source. Steve Jobs in business. Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he co-founded, fired from his own company in 1985 after internal conflicts with the board and the CEO. Fired from his own company. After being ousted, Jobs founded Next, a company called Next. Uh, and by the way, that didn't do very well for 10 years also. And bought Pixar, which is a brilliant move, both of which ultimately thrived. He eventually returned to Apple, transforming it into one of the most valuable companies in the world with products that I use today, like the iPhone, the iPad, the iPod, the iTunes, you get it. The dude's so dominant, you don't even realize he's a co-founder of Apple. There's Wozniak, who is the genius engineer, who's just not a great marketer. He's a genius engineer who really was a backbone of Apple. But that's how amazing and Steve Jobs was. It appears not a very nice man. He didn't really like philanthropy. I'm not sure I would have liked him personally, but again, I'm gonna give him props for his genius. Giving somebody love and respect and admiration and credit does not take away from you. It says something about you when you do. The person that who is succeeding doesn't need your acclaim. They appreciate it. They've already succeeded. They're living their truth. It says more about you if you play a Hayden, spending successful people talk about their ideas. People who are failing talk about other people. Hello. Walt Disney, as in the Walt Disney Company. Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking creativity. Okay, this is so funny. It had multiple business failures, including its first animation studio, Laugh-O-Gram, which went bankrupt. Disney persisted, eventually founding the Walt Disney Company, which grew into a global entertainment empire, revolutionizing animation and theme parks. Thomas Edison, the inventor, General Electric, etc., Edison famously failed thousands of times when attempting to invent the electric light bulb. In many of his early projects, like the automatic vote recorder, were commercial flops. Um, Edison eventually succeeded in creating the incandescent light bulb and built an innovative powerhouse in General Electric, the company GE, becoming one of the most prolific inventors in history. And by the way, Edison's mentee, side note, was a guy named Tesla. That's right. Elon Musk did not create the name. He just named the car after the inventor. But Tesla was a bad boy who was also a prolific inventor. And when he went to Edison with his ideas, Edison ignored him. So Tesla went off on his own and got his own backer. They were a little in competition with each other for a while. And of course, Edison was a better marketer, had bigger backing, and so on and so forth. But again, even the understory was part of the American and world story today because he never gave up. Henry Ford, I know Henry Ford III. He's a good friend of mine. He's on my board at Operation Hope. Ford's early businesses. This is the founder of Ford, including the Detroit Automotive Company, which failed. And he was viewed as a failure in the auto industry before founding, the Ford Motor Company. With the Model T and assembly line production, Ford revolutionized the automobile industry and became one of the most successful industrialists of his time. And he basically created the middle class. He paid his workers enough to buy the automobiles that they were making, and voila. Now he also was an interesting dude with some sketchy elements, and was viewed. I don't want to get into it, but he had interesting views about certain kinds of people and all kind of stuff. And um, uh, this is not about breaking down somebody. What I'm saying is that very much like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, you can have genius and still be this imperfect person, but you can still acknowledge somebody for the genius that they have because no one's perfect. There is no perfect. Just like there's nothing wrong with failure. Again, a saint is a sinner that got up. We're all angels with dirty faces. Here's how I live my life: talk without being offensive, listen without being defensive, and always leave even your adversary with their dignity. Because if you don't, they'll spend the rest of their life working to make you miserable. It becomes personal. So you step over a mess and not in it. Don't rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic and you're picking drapes and the ship is sinking. Like get on with the purpose and the mission in your life. Be about something yourself. It's so easy to criticize somebody, right? Don't be the chief criticism officer. Don't be the chief rock throwing officer. Like, do something yourself. Are you afraid to fail? Is that really what's going on? So it's better to bring somebody down to your level than to rise to theirs. Hello, can I get an amen? Howard Schultz, Starbucks. Schultz was rejected by over 200 investors when he was trying to get funding to transform Starbucks from a local coffee bean retailer into a powerhouse chain. Schultz persisted and eventually grew Starbucks into the global coffeehouse giant it is today with thousands of stores worldwide. Oprah Winfrey, who I love, know her. We're not dear friends or anything, but I do know her, and we have a good relationship. She gave me my Use Your Life award when I was early in my career and gave me some encouragement. I was so nervous when I met her. Uh, but anyway, you can put the photo of her and me and my parents up online. You see how young I looked in that picture. Failure for Oprah came early. She was early in her career. She faced professional setbacks, including being demoted from a TV news anchor because she was deemed unfit for television. Can you believe that? Winfrey went on to become one of the most successful and influential media moguls in history, launching the Oprah Winfrey Show and building a media empire that includes Harpo Productions and the Oprah Winfrey Network owned today. And she's a nice person. By the way, most people who are truly successful, they're nice people. All success does is amplifies who you really are. So if you're a jerk, you become successful, you become a really big jerk who's successful. If you're a nice person who's successful, you become a really, really nice person who's successful. It just amplifies who you really are. Jeff Bezos, who again, some of these people I know, I know Jeff not well, but I know him. My friend Van Jones knows him much better. In fact, he gave Van $100 million of his wealth. Amen to that. Um, Failure. In his early days, Amazon lost money for several years and faced intense skepticism from investors who doubted Bezos' vision of an online marketplace for everything. Bezos stayed the course, and Amazon became one of the largest and most influential companies in the world, revolutioning e commerce, cloud computing, and more. My friend Toby Lutke, who is a genius, I was just with him a couple weeks ago, founder of Shopify, which is sort of the somewhat competitor of Amazon, big e-commerce giant. They were partners in one MBB, 1 Million Black Business Initiative. He originally wanted to do some like a surf, not surf, not a ski hut, but it was basically it was tied to. I'm not a skier, right? Snowboarding. I think it was a snowboarding shop, and that's really what he wanted to do. He wanted to open initially, and that didn't work out very well. But he ended up tripping over and launching Shopify, and that is one of the biggest companies in the world, and certainly one of the biggest companies in Canada, which is where he's based. And he's got in his headquarters a mock up of the snowboarding business that would have been Rainbows After Storms. Colonel Sanders. Sanders was rejected over 1,000 times while trying to sell his fried chicken recipe to restaurant owners in his 60s. In his 60s, after a series of business failures, uh, on top of that, eventually his Kentucky Fried Chicken, we call it KFC today, took off, and Sanders became an international brand icon with KFC expanding globally. Sarah Blakely, who I don't know well, but I know her, respect her. Blakely, the founder of Spanx, failed her law school entrance exam multiple times. By the way, I failed the California real estate test 3 times. You know how hard it is to fail the California real estate test? If you can breathe in a mirror and walk, you can pass the test. I failed it 3 times. And if you fail it 4 times, they say you're so stupid that you can never take it again ever. I passed it the 4th time. Again, this stuff just humors me. Like I don't take stuff personally. I certainly don't. Doesn't say anything about me other than I was sleepy that day and didn't get any rest, and I didn't prepare, and so I failed the stupid test. I just went and took it again. Big deal. It's just an outcome to experiment. God willing, the creek don't rise. Tomorrow will come. You take it over. Again, resiliency. Just keep moving. It's hard to hit a moving target. So she failed this law school entrance exam multiple times and struggled through several sales jobs before coming up with the idea of Spanx. After facing rejection from manufacturers and industry insiders, she eventually succeeded in launching Spanx, building it into $1 billion company and becoming one of the youngest self-made female billionaires. Now there's Reed Hastings, who I know is a dear friend, Richard Branson, who I've met, but I wouldn't say I know him well. Actually, I don't know him well, but I've met him. Fred Smith of FedEx. Richard Branson is Virgin Airlines. FedEx. Fred Smith, the founder, initial business plan for FedEx was given a C by his professor at Yale, and the company struggled to stay afloat financially in its early years. Smith revolutionized the logistics industry by creating FedEx, which became the largest overnight shipping company in the world. And the guy who created UPS, I think his name is Kelly, UBS here in Atlanta, one of our partners. He it was a bicycle messenger company. He was just modestly successful, but when he connected that with, I think it was Ford Motor Company, and delivery and automobiles came together, and he never gave up. Boom! Here comes UPS, right? Which is a global logistics powerhouse. And these stories go on and on and on. You have Robert Downey Jr. in Hollywood, he had early success in the 1980s, but his career was almost derailed by substance abuse in the 1990s. He faced arrest, jail time. But by the way, it is interesting how some of my white brothers and sisters can rebound from this. But if you're black and go through the same stuff, you're just gone, gone, gone. You don't come back. Which is, by the way, again, I've taken that out also as a point of distinction that I can't afford. If you're born black, you're born on probation in America. You're like twice as smart, twice as intelligent, twice as well dressed, twice. You gotta get up early, stay later, work harder, stay later, lean in. No, you're not gonna get a break. No, no one's gonna cut your break. So just be excellent all the time. Haters make you better because you may not get a second shot. Dr. King was a practical jokester, but he wouldn't be anything but serious for fear that he'd be written off or discounted. So he was serious all the time. But anyway, Robert Downey Jr. You can't you don't get a shot. You can't decide whether you're born black or white, or so I'm not blaming Robert Downey Jr. for being born privileged, but he took advantage of the fact that he could bounce back, and he did. Downey's comeback became the Iron Man, which I love that movie. It's one of my favorites in the world. He revived his career and launched the Marvel Universe series, making him one of the highest paid actors in the world and successful to this day. Sylvester Stallone was rejected by numerous studios early in his career, often told he didn't have the look or the talent for leading roles. His script for Rocky was also repeatedly rejected, and when it was finally accepted, he was told he couldn't star in it. Stallone insisted on starring in Rocky. That was 1976, which became a massive success and launched his career as an A-list actor and action star. Charlize Theron was struggled to get roles early on and was even dropped by her agent after he told her she'd never make it in the industry. She wouldn't work. She couldn't work. She didn't have what it took. After several smaller roles, she broke through with her Oscar-winning performance in Monster. That was 2003, and that established her as one of the highest Hollywood stars ever. And she's continued to kill it, succeed, proving that she was not just a one-hit wonder. Harrison Ford, he worked as a carpenter, just like Jesus, while trying to break into acting. Jesus wasn't trying to break into acting, but it was the same profession. He was told by studio executives he didn't have what it took to be a leading man, and his early career was marked by small, mostly forgettable roles. Ford's big break came when George Lucas cast him as Han Solo in Star Wars. That was 1977, followed by his iconic roles as Indiana Jones, making him one of the biggest stars in cinematic history. Meryl Streep had rejection, and then she was told that she was too ugly uh, for a role in King Kong. Can you believe people are that cruel in Hollywood? Um, Despite her early criticism, Streep went on to become one of the most acclaimed actresses in history, winning 3 Academy Awards and earning more nominations than any other actor. You have Morgan Freeman, Melissa McCarthy, J.K. Simmons, Winona Ryder, Ben Affleck. These are examples of people who, again, had these failures and turned it into into incredible fortunes and promise. And the stories go on, and on. But my message to you is you can do it. Over it, around it, through it, you can do it. My message to you is that you're built to win, that God gave you unique fingerprints. He made you special in this world. There's nobody just like you in the world. And whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're absolutely right. That you are whatever and whomever you decide you're going to be. That the glass is half full or is half empty. It's the same glass. Depends who's looking at the glass. How do you see yourself? How do you see what's going on? Is what's going on going to destroy you, or is it just going to make you more determined to win? I get up every day optimistic, positive, believing in myself, believing in my ideas and my dreams, very focused on what I want to do. People, you tell me, oh, come hang out with us, come party. Why are you hanging around sitting around the computer reading a book? Reading a book, I don't know, because I want to learn. The same people who tell me that are failures. Not all of them, but many of them, including somebody I talked to last week, want to come work for me now because they would have the parties, they had the fun, they hung out, they went and partied and whatever, and for what? That didn't lead to anywhere. You're partying in somebody else's club, drinking somebody else's overpriced liquor, celebrating somebody else's success in business with your dollars at their establishment. I'm not saying to go out and have fun, but only in the dictionary does the word success come before the word work because it's alphabetical. You got to do the work first, and then you go have fun. And I've always enjoyed the work. It's not even work for me. I enjoy I'm passionate about what I do. You can hear it in my voice, I hope. I love what I do. I love creating. I love building, and I love excelling. I love helping people. I've got a real strong vision for what I want to do. And by the way, just I just want to say this because I want to. There are no ugly billionaires. So you want to really succeed, and all the other things will come to you. There are no ugly billionaires. Look, just live your life, live your truth, and understand that nobody else has a better idea of your life than you do. Maybe your parents might, right? But if you're rooted, if you're grounded in who you are, you probably have a pretty good sense for what you can do and who you are and what your vision is. And I want you to, as long as you're again level headed, you got a good business plan for your life, and you're not being irrational, then pursue it with all your passion, all your gusto. What's the worst could happen? Okay, it didn't work out. You failed. But that's just the experiment. That's just what happened in this moment. Life is long. If you take care of yourself, you live to close to 100. You know how many opportunities you're going to have to take a to take a W, and maybe you'll take an L 10 times more. You take a W, but no one's going to remember the L as in the loss. People are going to remember the win because people want to win. This world was made for good. We learn bad. Light defines darkness, not the other way around. This world's made for love. It's made for good energy. It's made for winning in spite of, if not because of. We don't love in spite. We don't love because of. If we love because of, we wouldn't even love ourselves. We love in spite of, and in spite of our differences, in spite of our insecurities, in spite of our shortcomings, still God has made us to win. And I believe that you're a winner. This is John Hope Bryant. This is Money and Wealth on the Black Effect Network podcast series on iHeartRadio. Tell your friends to subscribe, share this podcast with others. Go to Operation Hope and get your coaching. Get the book Financial Literacy for All. Change your life. It's all up to you.